Frusciante was born in Queens, New York City on the 5th of March 1970. His father, John Augustus Frusciante, is a Juilliard-trained pianist who later became a lawyer and then circuit court judge in Florida. His mother, Gail Bruno, was a promising vocalist who gave up her career to be a stay-at-home mother. Frusciante is of Italian ancestry. Frusciante's family moved to Tucson, Arizona, and then Florida, where his father served as a Broward County judge until October 2010. His parents separated when he was 7 years old, and he and his mother moved to Santa Monica, California. A year later, Frusciante and his mother moved to Mar Vista, Los Angeles with his new stepfather. He says really supported me and made me feel good about being an artist. He became involved in the Los Angeles punk rock scene. At age 9, he became fixated on the Germs, repeatedly listening to their album entitled G.I. He would later use a non-standard tuning of his own invention to play songs from the album's single finger bar. Frusciante began studying guitarists such as Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, David Gilmour, and Jimi Hendrix at 11, and he discovered Frank Zappa, whose work he would study for hours. He dropped out of high school at age 16 with the permission of his parents, and upon completion of a proficiency test, with their support, he moved to Los Angeles to develop his musicianship. He began taking classes at the Guitar Institute of Technology, but turned to punching in without actually attending, and left shortly thereafter. Frusciante discovered the Red Hot Chili Peppers around 1984 when his guitar instructor was auditioning as a guitarist for them. Frusciante attended a Red Hot Chili Peppers performance at age 15 and rapidly became a devoted fan. He idolized their guitarist Hillel Slovak, familiarizing himself with virtually all the guitar and bass parts from the Red Hot Chili Peppers' first 3 records. He became acquainted with Slovak, and the two spoke months before Slovak's death. Frusciante told him he would not like the band if they became popular enough to play the Forum Inglewood, and preferred smaller audiences. Frusciante became friends with the former Dead Kennedys drummer DH Peligro in early 1988. They jammed together, and Peligro invited his friend Flea. Frusciante and Flea had an immediate musical chemistry. Around the same time, Frusciante intended to audition for Frank Zappa, but changed his mind as Zappa strictly prohibited illegal drug use. The Chili Peppers collaborated with the producer Rick Rubin for their second record with Frusciante, Blood Sugar Sex Magik. Rubin felt that it was important to record the album in an unorthodox setting, and suggested an old Hollywood Hills mansion. Frusciante, Kiedis and Flea isolated themselves there for the duration of the recording. Frusciante and Flea seldom went outside and spent most of their time smoking marijuana. Around this time, Frusciante began a side project with Flea and the Jane's Addiction drummer Stephen Perkins, the Three Amoebas. They recorded roughly 10 to 15 hours of material which went unreleased. Frusciante had developed serious drug habits while touring with the Chili Peppers. He said that when he found out that Flea was stoned out of his mind at every show, that inspired me to be a pothead. He used heroin and was on the verge of full-scale addiction. Upon returning to California in 1992, Frusciante entered a deep depression, feeling that his life was over and that he could no longer write music or play the guitar. He spent the next 3 years in his Hollywood Hills home, the walls of which were badly damaged and covered in graffiti. During this time, his friends Johnny Depp and Gibby Haynes went to his house and filmed a documentary short entitled Stuff, depicting the squalor in which he was living. The house was eventually destroyed by a fire that also destroyed Frusciante's vintage guitar collection and several recordings. A 1996 article in the New Times LA described Frusciante as a skeleton covered in thin skin who weighed little more than 40 kilograms at the nadir of his addictions and nearly died from a blood infection. His arms were fiercely scarred from self-harming as well as improperly shooting heroin and cocaine, leaving permanent abscesses. Frusciante released his second solo album, Smile, From the Streets You Hold, in 1997. The album's first track, Enter A, is characterized by cryptic lyrics and hysterical screeches. Frusciante also coughs throughout the track, showcasing his deteriorating health. The album features Phoenix on Height Down. Frusciante said he released the album to get drug money and withdrew it from the market in 1999. In late 1996, after more than 5 years of addiction to heroin, Frusciante went cold turkey. However, months later, he was unable to break addictions to crack cocaine and alcohol. In January 1998, urged by his longtime friend Bob Forrest, Frusciante checked into Los Encinas, a drug rehabilitation clinic in Pasadena. He was diagnosed with a potentially lethal oral infection which could only be alleviated by removing his rotten teeth and replacing them with dental implants. He also received skin grafts to help repair the abscesses on his ravaged arms. About a month later, Frusciante checked out of Los Encinas. In early 1998, the Red Hot Chili Peppers fired guitarist Dave Navarro and were on the verge of breaking up. With Frusciante free of his addictions and ailments, Kiedis and Flea thought it was an appropriate time to invite him back. When Flea visited him at his home and asked him to rejoin the band, Frusciante began sobbing and said nothing would make me happier in the world. The group began recording their seventh album Californication and released in 1999. Frusciante's return restored a key component of the band's sound, as well as a healthy morale. He brought with him his deep devotion to music which affected the band's recording style during the album. Frusciante has frequently stated that his work on Californication was his favorite. In short, on December 2019, the Red Hot Chili Peppers announced that Frusciante had rejoined, replacing Klinghoffer. They had been working a new album with Klinghoffer but had made little progress. His approach towards the Red Hot Chili Peppers and how he perceived himself within it had also changed from his last tenure with the band. If I just try to let them be themselves, rather than making my own visions the center of everything, it felt like if somehow any of us died leaving it the way it was, it would be terrible. In an interview, Klinghoffer said there was no animosity around his exit. It's absolutely John's place to be in that band. I'm happy that he's back with them. Flea said that artistically, in terms of being able to speak the same musical language, it was easier working with John. In 2020, Frusciante released the EP's Look Down, See Us, and she smiles because she presses the button under his electronic alias Trick Finger, and the instrumental electronic album Maya under his real name. He said he had become less interested in singing and writing lyrics, and that he enjoyed the back and forth with machines and the computer.